Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss some of the books that I read in June and what I think of them. So let's begin. First in line we have City of Mist by Carlos Safón. And this is a compilation of 11 short stories to be published after his death in 2020. And just so you know, these are very short stories, but they are so gracious and entertaining that you read the whole book in just one sitting. Another thing to point out is that we see throughout the book some of the characters from his novels. So if you have not read any of his books, this will help you as an introduction. In this collection, we follow, for example, a backstory about this cemetery of the forgotten books and how its original builder was unable to complete the task. Also here we find Sempere, the famous book printer in Barcelona, and how he becomes involved with Cervantes and the printing of his book Don Quixote, one of the best pieces of literature of all times. On the other hand, we also have the telling of a beautiful prostitute used and abandoned by her own father, and how in her eyes kindness and compassion can be found in the arms of any stranger. This is a great addition to your collection if you decide to pick this up, so I highly recommend. In second place we have Breadwinner by Deborah Ellis. And this story is a bit touchy because we see a narrative that in many ways is not only realistic but also very heartbreaking. The book opens with the contrast of a country falling apart due to the atrocities and military occupation of the Taliban. Here we follow Parvana, an 11-year-old female who has to cut her hair and dress as a boy so she can work on the streets to support her family after her disabled father is taken away and imprisoned. And without a doubt, Parvana is very brave. Despite all the hard labor, she never gives up, and through her eyes and the eyes of the women surrounding her, we can appreciate how the physical and emotional pain that women go through make them more resilient. For example, one of Parvana's friends, also a female, tries to convince her so they can leave the country together. And even when she encourages Parvana to keep some money aside so she can escape, Parvana keeps faith that her father will come back, so she stays with her family. This is very eye-opening, and I will be reading the next installment to see how the story goes and how Parvana's family gets reunited. Next in line, we have Party Girls by Plum Skies. And this is a story set in the 1980s in Oxford University, where a group of freshman students are mesmerized by the presence and influence of young people in certain academic and social circles. Here the author reminds us over and over the fact that money and connections in a high-class society will dictate your success after graduation. And by contrast, our lead character is just a country girl who aspires to become a journalist. But when she finds herself in the middle of a murder case, she and her new friend, a exchange student from America, go around asking questions so they can find the perpetrator. And up to this point, you're made to believe that this is some sort of fancy detective story, but trust me, it is not. What we are given for sure is a lot of gossip and pretensions. We have young people who would do anything to keep appearances, to stay trendy, so everyone talks about them no matter what. Something else that I really didn't appreciate was the stereotype of Nancy as an American. In all chapters, Nancy is just seen as boy-hungry and very determined to get a high-class royal boyfriend. So in my opinion, this is just okay, but if you want to give it a go, at least it can make you laugh at times. I had another short story in my pile, so next we have The Haunting of the Gillespie House by Darcy. And here we follow a part-timer who takes a job sitting a country Victorian house while the homeowners go on vacation. Our protagonist here has multiple experiences that lead her to explore different parts of the house while finding out very disturbing details about the family who owned the land originally. So when strange noises go around the house, Elle also starts having these psychic experiences where she's taking through different timelines and see how many past family members went through a life of manipulation and punishment by the man of the house at that time, who was a cult leader. Also by coincidence in some research, she comes across the disappearance of the daughter of the current owners and how this event might be tied to the house mystery. So I would say that if you enjoy very intriguing stories, you're going to appreciate the simplicity of this plot and of course its final outcome. Next I have The Paper Magician by Charlie Holmberg. And let me start by saying that this is one of my favorite writers. I am surprised I don't see many people discussing her works because her writings have an audacity that engages you from the very beginning. For instance, here we have an apprentice who just graduated from a very prestigious school of magic in England in the early 1900s. And as we follow her apprenticeship, we learned about the magic system in this world and how it's even considered as any other regular job. And although she starts out rather sluggish and apathetic, since her dream was to become a smelter and not a folder, this is where the name Paper Magician comes from. She soon learns that appearances can be deceiving, and as in any other trade, things need to be practiced in order to be mastered. Now, our protagonist's emotions and past struggles actually really help her to become a very dedicated mentee. But when her mentor's life is threatened by a practitioner of dark magic, she defies all the rules and goes after the criminal, not only to save her mentor's life, but also to discover the secrets of his heart and their future together. So here the author gave us a different approach to a woman's heart, as well as how treacherous love can be and how it can muddle someone's mind. So it is by no surprise that our protagonist is fighting all kinds of emotions to remain free of judgment and to be impartial. So this book is 1 out of 3 in a series, so I will definitely be picking up the other 2 since I was very fascinated by the plot and how fast it progressed. I haven't read any reviews because I don't want them to spoil my expectations, but so far 5 out of 5 and I highly recommend it in case you want to read it as well. Last but not least, we have Eartheater by Dolores Reyes. And Eartheater is set in modern-day Argentina and tells the story of a girl with psychic abilities who lives with her brother in extreme poverty after her mother is killed by her father. Although not explicit, it is understood that her mother suffered from domestic violence. And here our protagonist is called Eartheater because once she touches dirt, she's able to see the dead and the circumstances that led to the person's passing. But because of disabilities, Eartheater grows disconnected from society, with no friends and not caring about anything or anyone but her own survival. It is after she exposes the assassin of one of her teachers that the teacher shows up in her dreams as a spiritual guide and warns her of the consequences and dangers of her own bad decisions. Eartheater is a typical loner with a self-destructive behavior. At times, you can feel that she has completely given up and feel rather safe in a comatose state. She barely eats, she drinks a lot, she smokes, and she lives in a constant cycle of depression. And my issue with the character is that she shows no remorse or interest in trying to make something positive out of her life. As a reader, you feel emotionally attached to her pain and you want her to do better. But every single decision that she makes, it takes her one step closer to her self-destruction. Now, something that you have to understand is that this book moves from point to point but has no central plot. It also has an open ending with her brother and her running away after they see themselves involved in a gang crime. So this is a very negative, gloomy outlook of life with nothing to look forward to. I tried to understand the hardships, but I could not relate with the hopelessness and downbeat personality of our protagonist. It's a very unique story, but rather inconsolable. And we have come to an end. Don't forget to leave your suggestions and all your comments in the description down below. And until the next video, take care.